Good to see you, Paul. There's only one thing to talk about this week, which is Clawbot or OpenClaw or Clawbot or Moltbook or whatever it's called now. Have you followed the latest on that? Where did we end up?
Yeah, they settled on OpenClaw.
And the founder of OpenClaw is now part of OpenAI.
Yeah, he
Did I get that right?
Just joined OpenAI. Yeah,
I wonder what that's going to mean for that whole effort.
So, it's a little bit crazy. Like, do you know the story, like how that came to be and how he...
I know bits and pieces, but for our listeners, why don't you walk us through it?
All right. I'll walk everybody through it. So basically, and I'll be honest, the name of the guy that created is a French guy, I believe. I'll have to look that up and maybe superimpose it on the video later because for some reason it escapes my mind. I don't have it open on the screen. But the guy that created that did it essentially by himself initially, and it was a side project. He was, as I recall, the inventor or the creator of the utility that is used in pretty much all mobile devices to read PDFs. So
really
seems like really super mundane thing, but I don't know if you could remember a time if you had an early iPhone or whatever, you couldn't open a PDF, right? You couldn't read one. So, he was really frustrated with that, came up with that, invented it, and now it's embedded everywhere in a billion devices. So I got to imagine the dude's got some coin, But anyway, he quit software and developing and tech and everything for like 3 years. And I don't know what he was off doing. He doesn't talk a lot about what he was off doing, so maybe he doesn't want us to know. But he basically came back to programming, and he saw artificial intelligence. He's like, oh man, I bet I could use this to like do a lot of the stuff that I do. And then he got frustrated with LLMs that they couldn't really do anything. And he says, I can like create this personal assistant. And that's what he did, right? So he created it as like a side project primarily for himself. And then, he saw other people using it around the office because he made it available, etc. And it became this big thing, and he like saw the potential for it. So that's sort of like how it came to be. But there was a lot of controversy. I don't know. Did you hear the controversy around like the hackers and the crypto and all that?
So here's what I heard, and the true origin story. I think maybe that the initial part has escaped me, but I think it came onto my scene with Clawbot or Moltbook, which was
Clawbot, CLAWD.
Yeah, right. That was the first thing, which is you hear it verbally or orally, and you're thinking, oh, that's related to Claude, like Anthropic's Claude, but it's not. It's CLAWD. But the big bump was around this, like So I heard a couple stories. One was this truly kind of unleashed agentic mechanism where suddenly Clawbot so what is it called now? Is it called
OpenClaw?
OpenClaw. So OpenClaw, it could sort of really take over. And I heard a couple like strange stories. I think some of them were from the founder about him just kind of saying, go try to do this. And it did some amazing things. One of the scenarios I heard was he forwarded a voicemail or something to OpenClaw, which had no audio MP3, whatever capability, but it solved that problem by recognizing it was audio. It gave itself or taught itself or gave access to the API so that it could then understand what this audio, this new format or foreign format to it, which was audio. And then it basically learned kind of to speak or process audio. That was the one area. And the kind of the sub story there was, well, that's a lot of security issues. You're giving this thing open range to be able to access. It could access anything. It could, it got your voicemail and did something interesting there, but it found your API key that's technically secret. Could it find bank account information? Could it do things that were harmful? And so the next thing I heard was confine it to an offline PC. And so iMac sales or mini iMac sales kind of. Right. The other thing that I think caught my attention even more was this, again, what I'll call Moltbook, which was this Facebook type of marketplace or platform, so that agents, agents could interact with each other with no human interaction. In fact, when I went to I was like, oh, that looks interesting, because it sounded kind of like what that's something new. Yeah. But when I went there, I think it explicitly said, for agents only, humans can only observe. And I was like, what is, and then that went down a whole rabbit hole of it creating its own religion and Christafarianism, and I turned off on there. So that's how OpenClaw and that initiative came onto my radar.
Yeah, and okay, so there was a lot of news about it, and a lot of it, some of it was true, some of it was not. A lot of it was not. I think the idea that you would give an AI, essentially hands to actually do something, and that's how it's advertised as, the AI that actually does stuff.
Yeah.
And that I think that plays on people's fears, right? Yeah, I kind of remember a couple of years ago when they were talking about, the dangers of AI, and the first thing they said was, don't open source it, don't give it access to the internet, don't do this and that, and we did all those things, right? And there was this big hoopla about getting putting a 6-month moratorium on AI development and stuff like that, which honestly, I like Elon Musk, but it seemed like he was probably behind in his AI, and he needed a way to slow down his competitors. Right? So, and it wasn't just him. It was others. Yeah. Like, I think he saw OpenAI going too fast, and he's certainly caught up. But there's definitely a lot. What's true, what's not true. So yes, the Moltbook, it does exist. It's online. You can go observe it, and they are bots that interact with each other, but they're interacting like under the direction of their masters, right? So the stuff where, like, the most famous thing on there was one bot that was trying to get another bot to give up its API keys or, whatever its secrets were, bank account information, what it was. Like, that was because its owner prompted it to do that kind of stuff. Like, it's not inherently evil. It's not inherently trying to steal, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like, motivation, right? Does a digital agent, an AI agent, have a motivation? Can it develop its own motivation beyond what its creator has told it to try to achieve?
Right. Yeah. No, but because it is an agent. So remember last episode we were talking about BMAD, and BMAD, I kind of refer to BMAD as the Liam Neeson of Taken, of the agents. It has a very specific set of skills.
Okay.
and its set of skills are to help design software. It's like very business use. And, kind of update on that. I've started using that in marketing now. Our company has really, really gone deep on implementing that. So if you work with Rizoyo, your software development process is now probably 30 to 40% more efficient than it was 2 weeks ago.
It's fantastic, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's only going to keep getting better. But we're not necessarily this is like kind of a step up, because we're going from prompting using AI, Claude code, etc., and the agents are kind of a step up from that. And my prediction is this is where 2026's value is going to be generated from AI, is from the use of agents. And to be honest, like I don't think there's a reason to fear them. But anyway, going back to that, because it is an agent, it's essentially an agent that acts as a personal assistant. And that's what Clawbot was. Now, there are plugins to it. Because it's open source, you can add additional agentic direction to it. So there's one that I've been using, and it's designed for software developers. So it kind of steps into the BMAD space. And it's called antfarm.cool, like .cool, antfarm.cool. And it's designed to be even more aggressive than BMAD in terms of working on its own. So you can give it a bug or a problem or whatever it is, and as long as it has access to the repo, the code base, it's going to just keep going until it figures out answers. And kind of the difference between like BMAD, which is really intended to be a guide and a helper and not an independent worker, as compared to Clawbot. Clawbot is more intended to like be an independent worker.
Okay.
So, and I need to start calling it OpenClaw.
Yes.
But it'll do things like, for example, you can actually have it, you can give it skills. So you can give it all kinds of skills. You connect it to an API. You can connect it to these things that are the model context protocol,
right? MCP
servers, right? MCP, and that will give it a whole set of skills and access to things to do on the internet that it didn't before. But to get the Clawbot to work for you, you really have to kind of skill it up. But because it's written in a way that it can update its own software, and it can actually do it. Sometimes it'll crash itself, but that's okay. It comes back up, right? But it will actually update its own instructions. And you got to remember that most of what it's doing is not software. It's most of the stuff. So it's not written in a programming language, I guess. Like, what is software anymore? I don't know. But it's written in these markdown files, which are very readable, right? So anything's written in markdown, you can view it in a markdown viewer, and it kind of looks like a PDF or something like that, right?
Right.
Honestly, it looks a lot like kind of the output you get when you have OpenAI or whatever whatever LLM you're dealing with, create a document for you. It does it in kind of this format. In fact, if you kind of copy that and then paste it into a text editor using the little squares at the bottom for copying, at the bottom of that section, it will actually kind of copy it in Markdown. So if you want to know what Markdown looks like take one of those and copy it into a text editor, and you'll see there's a lot of number signs and stars for formatting. Right.
Right.
So
no, Markdown. Well, I mean, that's a whole other topic. We should maybe dedicate a podcast to because Markdown has been something I ignored for decades as a project manager, account manager, executive in tech. It's like Markdown was something the developers used, and the last year it's become my new go-to, because, and again, a layman's understanding of it from my perspective is it's closer to the language that a computer can understand and interpret, as opposed to something that's easier, like a PDF, like a visual format that I can understand. But it's very close. Like it's not all that foreign or exotic. It's very
human readable.
Yeah.
It's very human readable. The thing that Markdown gives you is consistency, and in order to get good results, you want to provide something that it can understand. And so all of the LLMs understand Markdown extremely well.
Right.
If you give it a Word document or, like you said, a PDF or whatever, they do a really good job at interpreting those now, but still, a Markdown document is its go-to. Right?
So let's back up. You jumped from what you were talking about OpenClaw and then Ant Farm.
Yes.
So Markdown. Give me the skinny on that. Markdown is it's not giving you code. It's basically tell me more about, like, do a rundown on that.
Sure. And let me back up a little bit. There's when I'm talking to developers or I'm talking to audiences about kind of how developers work, one of the things I usually walk folks through is something that I gleaned from an interview with Andrei Karpathy, which I don't think was like completely original thought, but the way that he presented it was really good. So he was saying that, we kind of had this programming languages, which were, essentially type 1 code, right? So things are written in Python or, Elixir or, whatever, Ruby. And it's a coding language, and it's most people that are not developers can't really read it and figure out what it's going to do. If it's actually written really well, you can get an idea, but it's not really written. It's not written for human consumption. And that's kind of type 1 software, and that's like the bulk of the software that exists in production today. The second type is software that is a bit of a combination. So it's going to include things like prompts, and like your code may take a prompt, and that prompt is then formatted. Your code may take like some input or something from the interaction with the application you're dealing with, and it takes like your name and address or whatever and submits it to an LLM as a prompt. It like fills in those little squiggly brackets that you see like all the time when you get one of those emails that somebody forgot to actually put in the tags for your name, and it says hello first name, right. Like so like it does the same kind of thing. It fills in those little squiggly brackets. So and it creates a formatted prompt, and that prompt it sends off to an LLM, and it gets a response back, right? So that's like kind of type 2, where you're mixing the code and then kind of you're using LLMs or whatever other AI that you're dealing with. You're submitting a prompt of some kind to it that's in more human language, and then you're getting a response back from that. So that's kind of a hybrid, and that's sort of like that's type 2. And then the third type that we're seeing now is that not only are the prompts the code, but you have agents built into these, and these agents orchestrate the use of AIs. So going back to what is OpenClaw and what is BMAD, they're basically agents, and and almost all of their instructions are written in these Markdown files that you can see. So the actual, like what you would consider type 1 software, the old software that's written in code, BMAD only uses that to when you install it. After that, it's all Markdown, and it uses whatever IDE that you have, because those IDEs, they know how to read those Markdown files, and they know what to do with them. Right. But the BMAD itself, if you open up a folder that you install BMAD in, it's just all Markdown, every single bit of it. OpenClaw is basically the same. So now what we're seeing is like this type 3 software. So when I say like what is software, what is software development, what is software engineering, I think we're moving away from languages. Sorry. And Elon Musk had an interesting quote on this. He's like, the LLCs or the AI, they can write software in whatever way you want. So we're probably not going to need programming languages much longer, because it's going to be able to write everything in just machine code. And there are problems with that. Like, I think there's still going to be some level of abstraction that the agents are going to require, because like machine code is designed to run on a specific machine. So like you're going to have some sort of compiler or something. But, certainly in a lower level language that everybody, that non-programmers hate, like C or Lisp or something, right? Like we could get down to that low level of a language.
That's fascinating. I mean, the implications of that just are mind-boggling in a way. I mean, computers are becoming more human-like, or in how they communicate. Right? If we can, used to be, I don't know, C++, whatever. You go and you're like, even HTML. It's kind of like, well, I can kind of understand, but it's definitely some sort of robot in there. But Markdown, anybody can go in and get a sense of what's going on. And you're saying that that's currently the new standard for how these machines talk to one another. It's kind of, the implications of that are mind-boggling.
Yeah, they're agents. Can I bring something up that's even more mind-blowing?
Okay, sure.
So, have you heard? There's a news story about this girl that was going to Cornell University.
I've not heard this.
Who was functionally, and I don't know if she's still there because she's been outed, right, in the media, but she's functionally illiterate.
Oh.
She didn't know how to read. She didn't know how to write. She did everything with her phone. And so, she would speak into her phone and then interact with, an OpenAI or, whatever. And then all the output that was produced was, she'd have it read back to her, but she couldn't read it. At least not very well. She read on like maybe a first grade level or something like that. It was very, very low. And so, okay, but it seems silly, right? That you could have somebody in college who's passing, who's actually getting decent grades, who's illiterate. Now, she's smart, and I don't remember why she was illiterate. Like, I think she may have had like a severe case of dyslexia or something. Like, I think there was something involved in there. But, how long will we need written human language, right? Like, what's the point of written human? Humans existed for eons without any sort of written language, but they were able to communicate. They were able to, right? So why do we need it anyway? I would hate to see it go away because I graduated in Italian, a language, right? Yeah. So I would hate to see it, but I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I go to like, what is, I mean, this again, dude, you're mind blown. Like, you want to get philosophical. Like, what does it mean to be human, and what does it mean to communicate, and what's the importance of language, and what's the importance of these symbols that we scratched down onto rocks that we're now scratching onto paper, and all that fascinating evolution of technology. But at the end of the day, they are just means for us to connect with one another and accomplish things that we're trying to accomplish, that we can't accomplish just on our own, right? It's a communications method to get folks on the same line. Yeah. And oh God, this is there was a book, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, I think it was.
Yeah, okay, I've heard of this. Yeah, I
don't know
what it's about. But
the guy was effectively, like you talk about this Cornell student, and there are varying degrees of this, right? With epilepsy, dyslexia, who, again, which is a whole other interesting topic. They make great leaders, but the idea that this gentleman, I don't remember his name, couldn't communicate, except I think it was his left eyelid that was the only part of his body that he had, control over. And a nurse noticed that. And then, by using technology to read, by manipulate, all he could do was manipulate his left eyelid, and you could translate the minutia of that into using, like, he couldn't write, and maybe, literacy, whatever, but he used that technology to be able to author an entire book, right? I don't know. There's like this, there's a strange kind of, I've been fascinated a little bit with kind of the Rosetta Stone concept of being able to use technology to quickly overcome differences in how we think and how we communicate, even though, the goal at the end of the day is just to get what's in my head into your head, right? Whether you're speaking Italian and somebody was helping me with a project and we spoke different languages, and he brought out Google Translator, and I was like, this is perfect. It was just a quick interaction. Just had to tell him, this is what I'm looking for. I don't know, man. I think it's just fascinating. If you are illiterate, yet you have, again.
Yeah. So you were illiterate in that person's language.
Yeah. Right.
Fact,
exactly. Yeah. But hey, I want to go down as founders firing on all cylinders and talking to other founders. I want to circle back to earlier in our conversation. A couple times the word fear came up, and I've encountered a couple very distinct examples of this at an organizational level, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because OpenClaw, Clawbot. Talking about it kind of running free, and suddenly, like, again, the headlines have, will get you fearful that, hey, this thing is gonna, do some damage to you.
So let me just interject one quick thing on the OpenClaw. So, like, why are we talking about it? Like, it's not just a circus show or whatever. Does it have business uses? And it does. Yeah. So, this morning, like literally 4 hours ago, our CTO spun up OpenClaw in the cloud. He added it to our Slack account.
Okay. Interesting.
And one of the specific channels. And it looks through all of the Slack traffic in that particular channel.
Yeah.
And it writes Jira tickets when somebody mentions like a bug or a feature request.
Yeah.
I like literally creates it, and that's, we've known about this for 4 days.
So this is, so I'm trying to talk about mind blowing or whatever. Like, I'm trying to reconcile a lot of the things that I've heard from you.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to quickly go through some highlights.
Okay.
Dangerous code. I still, Christian, dangerous code. Like, this was a year ago, maybe.
Yeah.
AI can write dangerous code. Be careful of vibe coding, which is now called agentic engineering, apparently, right? There's no more vibe.
Context engineering. Yeah.
Well, I think, or whatever, right? Something.
Right. Like, I'm still pretty, actually, I'm probably even more anti-vibe coding than I was before.
So, but here, like I want to bring it up to a CEO level or founder level, because I'm all in, and I think that AI. If you're not using AI, it's like you're still using a flip phone rather than an iPhone or whatever, Android, smartphone. Yet, and I encounter, it's almost like, and I encounter founders and CEOs who want to have. I mean, they are by nature, innovators and trailblazers and mavericks, right? They're out there doing things fast, and they're asking their people to do things fast, and they're intrigued and interested, and they know that AI is something that they and their organizations need to be literate on, if not fluent on. And they know if they want to maintain at the top competitive nature, they need to have, or competitive, in their industry, they need to be deploying AI in their workflows and all that. And there's this fear clouding everything. You talked on a couple podcasts ago about the founder you had encountered. Like, I don't know who to trust. So let me throw this at you, because the power of AI at an organizational policy level seems to be potentially being watered down and the impact of it muted because of fear. And let me give you one example. For one client, we rolled out ChatGPT Enterprise, and right, because what was happening before? Everybody was using their personal accounts. There's the whole Samsung, anecdote of somebody uploading, some financial documents or code or something. So individuals within the organization go, well, I got to use this AI thing because maybe I'm an early adopter, and I'm going to go around the rules are fuzzy. organization gets wind of it. We launch ChatGPT Enterprise. Hey, everybody come on to Enterprise. Oh, and before you get your Enterprise license, you need to sign the AI policy. And the AI policy says things like, don't upload confidential information. And so the users in the organization are going, which is it? Like, are
am I supposed to use it or not? Yeah.
Well, what it's most useful for is, and I understand there's a concern about the level of confidentiality. And I don't know. I mean, this is a whole other topic about growing up in Silicon Valley and being on premise at companies like eBay and Google and PayPal. What I've seen just as a user and my expectation of privacy has essentially kind of been and after all the social media, what's that?
It's stripped away.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't assume that I have any, unless I'm hiking in the woods with my family and kids and we're talking about, it's like, okay. Then
there's all the flock cameras watching you,
pigeons aren't real. So birds aren't real, whatever. So I'm trying to reconcile this thing where individually I'm going, I live in the tools. I'm trying different things. OpenClaw kind of, I'm like, I'm not going to go there unless I'm on a Mac Mini that's not touching anything else. You have now, again, the guy that told me dangerous code, you've now said, well, we're deploying it. And somewhere in the middle of that, and again, I trust you, explicitly. Like you tell me to do it, I'm going to do it. And I want to try. What's that?
Be careful. Yeah.
Within reason.
Okay.
And for the vast majority of people that I'm interacting with and that I'm relying on and that I'm trying to advocate the use of AI, there seems to be this. It's like it's the eye of the hurricane, or it's like this forced limbo where everyone who wants to do something at a self-initiative and maybe a little bit early adopter interested is going, I got to go around the rules, or now that I'm in this area that I'm supposed to have these protections, I still can't do anything. My concern is we're just going to have people throw up their hands and go, I don't know. I mean, I'm indecisive. I don't know what to do. I want to be able to upload a one-to-one B2B business contract that has terms and conditions and people's email addresses and maybe some phone numbers and all kinds of personal information and terms that are exclusive to this deal. I really want to be able to have, I mean, that's the use case where I want AI that's trained on contract negotiation to step in and give me that advice. And that's going to be the area that I go to first. Yet you're telling me that I have to strip out basically everything that's consequential, so that from a policy perspective. So which is it? Again, which is it? Is it, are we, and I don't know if we have to single out ChatGPT Enterprise. And my answer is, dude, everything's in the cloud anyway. If you're on Google Workspace, all of your documents, all your, personal notes, if you typed a password in there, or for some reason you uploaded your password protected tax filings that has your social security number in it, people are asking, you're typing it in, because just to get into the damn government site, I have to type in my entire social security number. They're like, don't give that to anybody. I'm like, okay, well, for me to get access to the system. So which is it, man? Is it secure or not? Paul, come on, tell me. Got it.
All right. Well, here's all the answers you ever wanted about.
Thanks. Give it to me. I only got a few minutes left.
So, I know, me too. So, just a couple of things. So, first of all, if you're on an enterprise version of ChatGPT, OpenAI, whatever it is, Grok, whichever one you're using, their contract and their user agreements specifically state that they don't share your information. They don't use it to train their models, which is kind of where, the bad stuff happens, is if your data is used in a training set, and they say they don't do that. So as much as you can trust those companies, and I would think that they have a very high degree of motivation to keep
to honor that
true,
agreement.
to honor that, because if they were not, there would be some like massive legal liability that they would be dealing with, right? The other thing is, don't assume that just because you're not uploading those documents there, that the other party or some other person is not. And so it could still show up in training data and be spit out, because they've shown, they've done experiments. They can actually get it to output the entire Harry Potter series with about over 95% word for word accuracy. So what people don't understand is like these things are kind of like databases. So
for sure.
So be careful. But yeah, like I would say, the enterprise tools, if you're using the enterprise tools, I think you're pretty safe. I'm not going to say 100% safe, but I think you're pretty safe.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is, where does bad code come in, and, all that sort of stuff. So, I agree that like the way that you use vibe coding is actually can be pretty productive, right? You're creating sort of an interface for somebody to react to.
It's a prototype. It's slides on steroids. It's just me trying to communicate an example, and then if there's traction, then it's like, all right, let's get this into a real environment and use somebody who knows what they're doing.
And all I'm saying is that now with agents, if you can take a little step up and learn a little bit more, like if you can learn to run this agent locally, like BMAD, for example, then you can actually kind of take it to the next level. So, for example, yesterday, we're kind of retooling a lot of our marketing based around the fact that we have gone over the past month completely agentic in the way that we deliver our services, whether it's our developers and our CTO said to our developers, if you're not maxing out your token usage and you're not getting shut down by these tools on a daily basis, you're probably not going to last very long here. I mean,
I love that. Yeah, that's a great statement.
And we have developers, like good developers, very experienced developers, who almost refuse to do it. And I'll be honest, like I'm probably not going to be working with them this time next year. They're either going to change their attitude or they're just going to fall so far behind. But getting back to it, so that's fine. Like for vibe coding or for fun stuff, whatever. It's good for that. For creating like a prototype. The problem is I went to a meetup the other day about. Actually, this one was on BMAD, and there are some people in there who are, not technical, and they've kind of bought into the hype that they don't need to be technical to write code, and that they're going to vibe code their way into a, 6-figure, 7-figure exit in their startup, and that's buying into the hype, and that it's. I don't mean to badmouth anybody, but Tony Robbins drives me nuts, right? And he sells wealth, he sells money, right, to saps who think that they're actually going to get some, that they're going to become rich by listening to him. And I feel like it's kind of that way, like vibe coding. As long as you don't have that attitude, then that's fine. The reality is, if you can upskill just a bit to use an agent like BMAD and that antfarm.cool I was telling you for OpenClaw. That's OpenClaw's like developer, right? So if you can just upskill, you don't have to really learn any programming languages or anything, but if you can upscale a little bit and have it explain to you what it's doing, and maybe have it teach you enough programming that you can understand, what's going on in its, in its innards. I won't say its mind because these things don't have minds. Then, you're going to be a lot further up. I was doing the marketing work yesterday. BMAD has a creative suite built into it where I was able to create, users and personas and user journeys and all of the kind of stuff that you use in, marketing these days. And I said, okay, now like based on this and a whole strategy document and a transformation document and all that, go to my website and let's now start working on the website. Let's start creating email chains. Like let's start doing this stuff. And it was able to tell me what it was going to change on the website, but telling me textually wasn't good enough.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, output this as HTML files and run a Python server, and so I can see it on my desktop, right?
Wow.
I didn't touch, I swear, Christian, even though I know you don't believe me on this, I didn't write a line of code. I ran
Unbelievable.
I ran one terminal command that it gave to me, like a literal copy and paste, right? Into terminal, which I was running in Cursor, so it has a terminal window. I didn't have to open the terminal app or anything at all. And it started running it, and I was able to go in my browser, and and it wasn't like genius level in terms of design and things like that, but I could see the flow, and I could actually react to it specifically, kind of the same thing you're doing with vibe coding.
Right.
But what I could do, like, as is different from a vibe coder, is now, because this is all in BMAD and it's all agents and they write code properly and all that sort of stuff, I can take that to the next level, and I can have it create those pages in my software.
It takes it that far.
Right? And it's in a repository that I can upload to GitHub. I can have my developer download it because I need his expertise on it. So I can actually create some working code out of that, right? And production ready code. So that's the big difference.
So I love it. Here, let's close with an exercise and see if you can help me, because so BMAD and antfarm.cool are now like my afternoon projects.
Oh wow. Okay.
Go to
BMAD. Go to BMAD, because antfarm.cool, you got to have Claude. You have to have OpenClaw, and like that's.
But here's the use case, and tell me if BMAD is going to help me on this, because it's pretty. So again, and I go back to my first experience with when OpenAI launched, ChatGPT. It came out like, I heard about it that week, and Friday I got a verbal agreement on a contract, and I was pissed because that meant my whole weekend I was gonna have to write this contract, and I hate writing contracts. Right. And I'm like, I'll try ChatGPT, and within like 30 minutes, I had a perfect contract that I sent over, and they signed it by Monday, and I was like, I had my weekend back. Yeah. So my contract of today, which is Thursday, is next week I'm kicking off with a brand new client.
Okay.
Right. I don't know enough about the client. I didn't even sign the scope of work, so I'm not even sure what exactly we're doing, other than what our business is, which is AI education, AI transformation, do strategic leadership. So I've got a 2.5 hour session scheduled with the founder of that company and their leadership team. I know, and it's a discovery session. It's a first kickoff. I've run these things dozens of times, maybe hundreds of times. Yeah. But not for this set of services around AI literacy, AI education, AI transformation, uncovering, we do these dream sessions. Like, what do you want to build? What do you think AI is going to do for you? Yeah. So what I would do over the next, day and a half is sit down and create a slide deck and organize, and figure, do some diagnostic around who this client is and what do some research and try to figure out what a nice structure would be to get them engaged. And I would have backup plans, because if engagement slips, then I need, pull some things out of my hat to get them re-engaged. Can BMAD help me conduct and formulate a better discovery session for a new client?
Yeah.
Okay. What should I do? What do I do?
For sure. So what you want to do is, go to it's called BMAD method is the site. I encourage you to install Cursor. Now, people will hate me, but I like working with BMAD and Cursor.
Okay.
So install Cursor. You need to get like a Cursor subscription so you have access to the LLMs.
Okay.
But it's $20 a month. So get that, right? And it gives you access to a bunch of different ones. And if you put it in auto mode, it chooses the one that you want. And honestly, like, I don't think you're going to hit I have a $60 a month subscription, but I don't think you're going to hit the $20 a month limit unless you become like addicted to it like I am, right? So then you're going to go, you're going to open up Cursor, you're going to create a new project, and you're going to type in npx bmad-method install.
Okay.
And it's going to install in the folder that you're working. So create, a working folder where you want to work with it.
Okay.
And then install it. And then there's only one other step that you have to do, which is after it's done installing, and it will tell you it's done installing, is so that command you're going to do, that's going to be in the terminal. But in Cursor, the middle pane defaults, and you can just say open terminal, and you can type it in there. So you don't have to go to some other. You don't have to open up.
It'll open terminal within the Cursor environment.
It's going to have and then that's the last you're going to need that terminal, and then you're going to go over on the right side. There's a panel which is where the agents live, and that's where Cursor is going to have you. It's going to know what to do with the agents.
Okay.
But it should be pretty. The install process has you make a couple of decisions, and you're just going to choose. The only one that's really important is choosing Cursor as your IDE, because it's going to install a specific set of Cursor agent files, and those are written out in the way that Cursor understands them. So once you're using Cursor in that agent window, you're going to type / It's going to give you a drop down of all the stuff it knows how to do, all the different agents it has. You're just going to choose the top one, which is like the BMAD, method master, whatever, and that's it. And then you're going to start saying, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Walk me through it."
Okay.
So